ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so in the last session, we saw Manushya Srishti and we saw that Hiranyagarbha, turned himself into Manu and Shatrupa, initially in one piece, then they were separate. And I said that the Manushyas, the human race, was born out of Manu, and that is why they are called Manushyas. And that's why Manu is the what they call overall source from which human beings are born. What about Shatrupa? Now remember, we have to be very careful when we say Manushyas were born from Manu. Shatrupa is not involved in this. Okay, it's from Manu alone that the Manushas are born. Now the next phase is Pashu Srishti, the animal Srishti. So that we will read the fourth mantra, 144. Saheyam iksham chakre
हेयमीक्षां चक्रे
katham nu atmana eva janiyatva
कथं नु मन एव जनयित्वा
sambhavati hantatir asani
संभवति
हन्ततिरो आसनीति
iti sa gauhu abhavat
इति सा
गौरभवत
rishabha itaratam sama
ऋषभ
वृषभ इतरस्तां समव
eva abhavat
एव
अभवत
tatah gavah ajayanta
ततः
ततः गावः अजायन्त
bhadava itara bhavat
बडवन्तरा भवत
अश्ववृषः इतरतां सम एव
अश्ववृष इतर
तां तरतां
गर्दभ इतरतां
सम एव
सम एव
अभवत्
अभवत
ततः एकः शफम् अजायत
ततः
तत एकशफम् अजायत
अजा इतरा भवत्
अजा
अजायतरा भवत
वस्तः इतर अवि इतमेष
वस्त
वस्त इतर अविरितरामेष
इतरः तां सम
इतरः
तां समा
एव अभवत्
एव अभवत
ततः अजावयः
ततः अजावयः
अजायन्त एवमेव
अजायत एवमेव
यत् इदं किञ्च मिथुनम्
यदिदं किञ्च मिथुनम्
पिपीलिकाभ्यः
पिपीलिकाभ्यः
तत्सर्वम् अजरहत् असृजत्
तत्सर्वम्
असृजत
So this is a story, okay, how the Pashu Srishti evolved. So what is the background? That Hiranyagarbha himself transformed into Manu and Shatarupa. Right? From Manu, the Manushas were born. Now Shatarupa looked at Manu and she said, thought to herself that I am born out of Hiranyagarbha. So Hiranyagarbha is my father. Now who is Manu born out of? Also Hiranyagarbha, because Hiranyagarbha alone has appeared as Manu also. So how can I then look upon my father as my husband? So it is not appropriate. right? So she said, let me not be Shatarupa. And therefore she changed herself into a cow. So that's the story. She changed herself into a cow. And when she became a cow, then Manu converted himself into a bull. So Rishabhaha. You can see that over there. Gahu Rishabhaha. Manu converted into a bull and Shatarupa changed into a cow. And out of this couple came the entire cow species, the cow jati. Okay, now you can always go back logically and say they, even though bull and cow, they are still Hiranyagarbha only. So that's all. Don't go into that sort of analysis because that sort of analysis leads to paralysis. Okay, so don't go into that. It's only a story. So that is the how the cow species came. And then you have to imagine that Shatarupa changed into a horse, and then Manu changed into a male horse, and so on and so forth. Donkey, ant, birds, everything. The entire male and female species of all beings came into existence from Manu and Shatarupa. And that is why the name Shatarupa. What does Shatarupa mean?
1,000 rupees.
Hundreds of forms.
Hundred forms.
Hundreds of forms. So thus all the possible forms they came out of this Manu Shatarupa couple only. So that is the story. Okay, of the fourth mantra. Now we go to mantra number 5. So we will chant. So vet aham vava
So
So
Veta
Veta Aham Vava
srishtirasmi aham hidam sarvam
Srishtirasmi
Srushtirasmi Aham Hidam
sarvam
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 asrishikti tataha
Asrishti
Asrukshiti
Tataha
Tataha
सृष्टिरभवत्
Srishtirabhavata
सृष्ट्यां हासे तस्याम्
Srishtya
दृष्ट्यां
Srushtyam
हास्यैतस्यां
Hasyaitasya
भवति एवं वेद
Bhavate
भवति
Bhavati
Evam
एवं वेद
Veda.
Evam
okay so now I would request you all to please keep yourself on mute. Okay. Okay, so after this creation, then Hiranyagarbha said, now I have become Manu, I have become Shatarupa, I alone have become all the animals, I have become Devatas, I have also become the Annam and the Annadaha, the eater of the Annam. So what did he understand? Ahameva Srishtihi. This creation is nothing but me, right? And here Upanishad says that whoever does this kind of an upasana, that I am Hiranyagarbha and I am alone the Srishti, and therefore, if you are the Srishti alone, you are identified with the entire Jagat. When you do that, what will happen? There will be no individuality left in you. Your mind will expand to look upon the whole world as your own family. Vasudeva eva kutumbakam. Okay. Now we go to the next mantra 146. We will chant. Please unmute yourself. अथ इति अभ्यमन् फतसः
Atha iti abhyamantasah
ततः
मुखाच्च योनेः
मुखाच्चयोनिः
Yonehe
हस्त्याभ्यां च अग्निम्
हस्ताभ्यां च
Hastabhyam
अग्निम्
Chagnim
असृजत तस्मात् एतत् उभयम्
Asrajata
Jatasmadetat
एतत्
Ubhayam
उभयम्
अलोमकम् अन्तरत अलोमकाहि
अलोमकम् अन्तरतः
Alomakamantaratam
अलोमकाहि
Alyomakahi
योनिः अन्तरत तत् यत् इदम्
योनिः
Yonihi
अन्तरतः
Antaratatatat
इदम्
idam
आहुः अमुं यज इति
आहुः
Ahu
अमुं
Amum
यजम्
Yajamum
यजेति
Yajaiti
एकैकं देवम् एतस्य एव सा विसृष्टिः
एकैकं
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 देवं
देवम्
देवस्यैव
एतस्यैव
एतस्यैव
सा
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 सृष्टिः
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 एष हु एव सर्वे देवाः
एष
एष
उ
हु
एव
एषु
एव
एव
सर्वे
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 देवाः
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 अथ यत्किञ्च इदम् आर्द्रम्
अथय किञ्च
अथ
अथ
इदम्
यत्किञ्च इदम्
यत्किञ्चित्
आर्द्रम्
इदम् आर्द्रम्
आर्द्रम् तत्रेतस
आर्द्रम्
तत्रेतसः असृजतः
तद्रेतसः असृजतः
तत्रैतसः
असृजतः
तत् उ सोमः एतावत्वा
तदु
तत्तु
सोमः
सोम
एतावता
एतावता
इदं सर्वम् अन्नं च
इदं सर्वम् अन्नं च
एव अन्नादः च सोमः
एव
एव अन्नादश्च सोमः
एव अन्नम् अन्नादः
एव
एव अन्नम्
अग्नि
अन्नादः
अन्नादः
सा एष ब्रह्मणः अतिसृष्टिः
सा एष
स एष
ब्रह्मणः
ब्रह्मणः
सृष्टिः
अतिसृष्टिः
यच्छ्रेयस देवानसृजत
यत् श्रेयस
यच्छ्रेयस
देवानसृजत
देवानसृजत्
अथ यत् मर्तयः सन्
अथ
अथ
यत्मर्तयः सन्
यस्मर्थय सन्
अमृतान् असृजत तस्मात्
अमृतान्
अमृतानसृजत
असृजत
तस्मात्
तस्मात्
अतिसृष्टिः अतिसृष्ट्यां
अतिसृष्टिः
अतिसृष्टिः अतिसृष्ट्याम्य
अस्य एतस्यां भवति
अस्य
अस्य
एतस्यां
एतस्यां
भवति
भवति
य एवं वेद.
य
य
एवं
एवं वेद
वेद
So in this mantra, the two creations, two Srishti are talked about, Deva Srishti and Annadaha Srishti. So first, Agni was created. Now we have to recall the Tapovala connection. Agni Devata is the presiding Devata of what organ?
Vak.
Of Vak organ, right? And therefore, where should Agni be situated?
in the mouth.
In the mouth. Okay. And how is Agni created? In the Vedic ritual, how is Agni created?
friction between
The two Aranis, right? The upper Arani and the lower Arani. Arani, I hope I don't have to explain. What is Arani?
Hollow piece of wood and another wood which
Hollow piece of wood is the lower Arani and a rod is the upper Arani. The rod is put into the lower Arani and churned. And then the sparks come, right? So, similarly he says, Hiranyagarbha wanted to bring out Agni Devata from his mouth by churning. Now, all stories, okay? Don't hold me literally to this. Now, for churning, the mouth is the lower Arani, right? What do you require now to churn?
the upper Arani.
Upper Arani require a churning rod. And Hiranyagarbha had no churning rods, okay? So he used his hand as a churning rod. Therefore, story says he put his hand into his mouth and churned and churned. And out of this churning, Agni Devata was born. And there is a story here given, a logic given. They say, the Shastra says, the mantra says, look at your whole body. Look at your head, look at your hand, look at your chest, look at your legs. Everywhere there is hair. Everywhere there is hair or not. But look inside your mouth and on the palm of the hand, where these two places are free of hair. Okay. Therefore, what is the logic? The hand was put in the mouth. And when the hand churned, what happened? Agni came. And therefore, whatever hair was there in the mouth and whatever hair was there on the palm, they were all burnt away. And that is why you find that in the mouth and on your palm there are There is no hair at all. And this is not only for Hiranyagarbha, because that was the way Hiranyagarbha did it. And Hiranyagarbha's palm was free of hair and his mouth was free of hair. And we are all born out of Hiranyagarbha. Therefore, your palms are free of hair and your mouth is also free of hair. Okay. It's a story. Okay. Now, next was what? Devata was created. The Soma Devata was created out of the Retas, the energy, the Bijam, creative energy. And thereafter other Devatas were born. With this, Devata Srishti is over. Deva Srishti is over. And here Shruti says that Agni Devata became the Annadaha and Soma Devata became the Annam. Right? Annadaha is what? Taittiriya Upanishad. What is
That consumes.
one that consumes? Ahamannam, ahamannam, ahamannam. One should not forget your mantras. Right. So you are the Soma Devata became the Annadaha, the consumer, and Agni Devata became the Annam. So again, I will mute because somebody's mic is very, very disturbed. Okay. All right. Now, therefore, you look at the two, you know, Agnis. Agni Devata, therefore, became a digestive fire, the Vaishwanara Agni, which consumes the food, which, right? And therefore, Agni Devata is called Annadaha, the one who eats the food. And the one who eats the food is nourished by what? He is nourished by the food. Therefore, Soma Devata became the nourishment in the food. And therefore, Upanishad makes an incidental point. It says, out of all the Srishtis, the greatest Srishti is what? Is the Deva Srishti. And therefore, it calls it Ati Srishtihi, the best Srishti, the highest Srishti. Ati Srishtihi is Deva Srishti. Right. With this, the Sadhya Prapancha topic, the creation topic is over. Right. And now the easy part is over. Now we are going to go into, as I said, one of the greatest, beauties of this particular Upanishad is that there is a lot of Vedantic topics discussed in the Bhashya. Right? Now there are two topics discussed here by Shankara. So one inquiry comes in the second mantra, this 142, right? What did we say there? We said that Hiranyagarbha felt he was lonely, and because he was lonely, he became fearful, right? And then later what happened? He looked at himself and said, Mad Anyat Nasti. There is no second thing other than him. Okay, now the discussion is on that Mad Anyat Nasti, that phrase. What is the exact meaning? Mat Anyat Na Asti. There is no one other than me. Right? There is no second thing other than me. I am the only thing. That is what Hiranyagarbha said. So here Shankara points out that this phrase can be interpreted in two ways. One is that there is nothing other than Hiranyagarbha. Therefore, I need not be afraid. And this particular interpretation is, of course, Anandagiri's interpretation. There is nothing in this universe other than Hiranyagarbha. Like Hiranyagarbha is me. Therefore, I should not be afraid. Now, that is Anandagiri's interpretation. You can also interpret it separately. Which word are we interpreting? Mat. Me. The first interpretation, which is Anandagiri's interpretation, is me means Hiranyagarbha. Why? Because it is Hiranyagarbha who is saying that there is nobody other than me. What can be the other interpretation? Other interpretation is that mat, that me, should be equal to Brahman, not Hiranyagarbha. And while the first interpretation is Anandagiri's, Shankara does not touch that. Shankara makes an inquiry into the second interpretation, which is that Mat should be taken as Brahman. So Hiranyagarbha knew not that I am Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha knew that I am Brahman. Aham Brahma Asmi. That is Hiranyagarbha's understanding. Right. Now Shankara writes here. He asks a question. If you say that Hiranyagarbha was all alone and Hiranyagarbha got this knowledge, Aham Brahma Asmi, what is the source of that knowledge? Where is the Guru? Where is the Shastram? Where is the teaching? Where is the Upadesha? That is Shankara's question. And if you say that for Hiranyagarbha, all these were not required, then as Jivatma, I will also say that since I am also Hiranyagarbha, I also don't require Guru, I don't require Shastram, I don't require Upadesha. Which we all know from the practical point of view is not true, because without Shastram and Guru, I will never even know that I am Hiranyagarbha, let alone that I am Brahman. And therefore Shastra concludes by saying that when we say Shastram, Guru are required, this is a general rule applicable to the majority of people. But he says there can be exceptional cases, people with exceptional upadhis. When I say exceptional cases, I mean exceptional upadhis, where jnanam is possible without pravanam, maranam, nididhyasanam in this janma. Okay, that is important. In this janma. And what are the what do you call examples that we can think of? The most famous example is who?
Ramana Maharshi
Maharshi.
and
Ramana
Shukadeva.
Maharshi, right? Because Ramana Maharshi didn't have any Shravanam Maranam in this janma. So because of Purva Janma, Shravana Maranam sadhana was already there. Therefore, this knowledge is possible. Shankara concludes that is possible. So when the papams go away, and what happens is that Shravana Maranam did not take effect in the last Janma because some papams were still there. And through experiencing the fruits of those papams, they have gone away, they have been neutralized. And therefore, in this Janma, the knowledge can come without a fresh Shravanam Maranam. Okay, this is Shankara explanation. And Shankara says that there is, we give an example. Okay, now the example is a very Shastric example, so we have to try to understand carefully. There is a kind of knowledge called Rupa Jnanam. Rupa means color or form. Okay, so knowledge of color or form. And Shankara says that certain yogis, right, they can get this Rupa Jnanam without the need of using their indriyas. So normally, color or form, you require which indriya?
Chakshu.
Chakshu indriya. But he says, Shankara says, there is a ati indriya shakti, extrasensory power, right? And that, so in English we call it ESP, extrasensory perception. So they can get this knowledge of color and form without the need of those indriyas, with the help of the mind. So kevala manaha rupa jnanam, he says, right? He gives an example of the owl, for example. He says, in the night, the owl gets the knowledge of the objects with the help of the mind and the eyes, right? But the same object in that same night, if we want to get a knowledge, the mind and eyes, which is all that the owl has, are not enough for us. We need one more thing, and that is light, right? So owl gets the knowledge of an object in the night with the mind and the eyes. But we get the knowledge with mind, eyes, and light. Therefore, he says there are differences in the indriyas and in the means of the knowledge according to the upadhi that you have. The owl upadhi is superior to the human upadhi in the sense that it does not need the light. And Shankara gives the example of Vamadeva. Right? Vamadeva said what? He said, Aham Brahmasmi in the womb. He got the jnanam during the period before birth when he was in the womb. Therefore, Shankara says these are extraordinary cases where due to an extraordinary upadhi or due to extraordinary purity, you get jnanam not in the ordinary way, but in an exceptional way. And this exception will not apply to all of us. Okay. This is a long discussion which we have seen. Earlier on, we simply used to say that because of Purvajanma Papa or Purvajanma Punyam or Purvajanma SMN, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasana. But here he is telling you how it works because of the Upadhi and its attribute is there that way. Upadhi was, why a superior Upadhi is there? Because of superior Punyam, superior Punyam and because of Shravanam, Mananam in the last Janma. So that is one discussion. That was the second mantra. Now in the sixth mantra which we have just seen, 146, there is another discussion. This is also a discussion which is very important for all of us. So the question here is, Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is which category? Is it Ishvara or is it Jiva? Which category does Hiranyagarbha fall? What would you say?
Jiva.
Can you
Okay. So
on the question?
Shankaracharya says that in the Shastram, remember that this question is not to be answered by your mind. Why? Because your mind has no access to Ishvara. Right? And therefore, what is the source of such knowledge? Is the Shastram only. So in Mundaka Upanishad, if you remember, Hiranyagarbha is taken as Ishvara. It was said that Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara are appearances of Ishvara. So in Mundaka Upanishad, Hiranyagarbha is taken as Ishvara. But here, in this Brhd Upanishad, it is said that Hiranyagarbha is nothing but a position gained by a jiva through superior punyam because of superior karma and upasana in his previous janma. Therefore, according to this particular section, the fourth section, Hiranyagarbha is a jiva. According to Mundaka Upanishad, Hiranyagarbha is Ishvara. Both views are there. Right? And Shankara, in his commentary, he says that, however, if you look at the majority of portions, they talk about Hiranyagarbha as Ishvara alone. But there are references to Hiranyagarbha as Jiva also. And because of the extraordinary punyam in the last Janma, he is taken as Ishvara. You cannot say because of Jnanam in the last Janma. Why?
He would not
Because
have born.
there is no Janma.
He would not be born at all. Correct? Okay. So, any questions so far?
One question that arises is that we say that from Manu became the Manushya,
Yeah.
then Manu and Rupa gave the Pashu Shushti, and then Annam, and then Deva. So is it the order of the Srishti or first? Who came first?
This story, you can take it as order as Manushas were the first, and this Shruti itself says cows were the next, and then the rest you have to supply.
Okay.
But it's
So
not really relevant.
that is yeah. Because normally we expect our belief is that Deva would have come first and then like
Yeah,
that.
so that order is not specified here. So, but they do say that Deva is the best Srishti.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
now we go to the next mantra, the seventh mantra. So please unmute yourself. We will chant. Tatha idam tarhi
तथ
तथ
इदं
इदं
तर्हि
तर्हि
अव्याकृतमासीत
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 तत् नामरूपाभ्यामेव
तन्नामरूपाभ्यामेव
नामरूपाभ्यामेव
व्याक्रियत असौ नाम अयम इदम रूपम इति
व्याक्रियत
व्याक्रियत असौ
नामयम्
नामायमिदं रूप इति
तत् इदम अपि एतर्हि
तदिदम्
तत् इदमपि एतर्हि
नामरूपाभ्यामेव व्याक्रियते
नामरूपाभ्यामेव व्याक्रियते
असौ नाम अयम इदम रूपमिति
असौ
असौ
नामयम्
नामायमिदं रूप इति
सः एषः इह प्रविष्टः
सः
सः
एष
एषः
प्रविष्टः
इह प्रविष्टः
ग्रेभ्यः
आनकाग्रेभ्यः
आनकाग्रेभ्यः
यथाक्षुरः श्रधाने
यथा
यथाशुरः
श्रद्धाने
श्रद्धाने
अवहितः स्यात्
अवहितः स्यात्
अवहितः स्यात्
विश्वम्भर वा विश्वम्भरकुलाये तं न पश्यन्ति
विश्वम्भरः वा विश्वम्भरकुलाये न पश्यन्ति
अकृत्स्न हि स प्राणन् एव प्राणनाम भवति
कृत्स्नहि प्राणनेव
सः प्राणमेव प्राणनाम भवति
वदन् वाक् पश्यन् चक्षुः शृण्वन् श्रोत्रं मन्वान् मनः
वदन् वाक्
वदन्
पश्यन्
वाक् पश्यन्
चक्षुः श्रोत्रम्
चक्षुः शृण्वन् श्रोत्रं मन्वानुमनः
तानि अस्य एतानि
तानि
तानि अस्य एतानि
कर्मणामानि एव सह यः
अपरिणामानि
सहायः
एव सः
अतः एकैकम् उपास्ते
अतः
अतः
एकैकम्
एकैकमुपास्ते
न सह वेद अकृत्स्नं हि
न स
न
वेद
सः वेद
अकृत्स्नो
अकृत्स्नो हि
एषः अत एकैकेन भवति
एषः
एष
अत
अत
एकैकेन भवति
एकैकेन भवति
आत्मा इति एव उपासीत
आत्मा इति
एव
एव
उपासीत
उपासीत
अत्र हि एते सर्वे एकं भवन्ति
अत्र हि
अत्र हि
एते
ते सर्व
सर्व
एकं
एकं
भवन्ति
भवति
तत एतत् पदनीयम्
तत
तत एतत्
एतत्
पदनीयम्
अस्य सर्वस्य यत् अयम् आत्मा अनेन हि
सर्वस्य
अस्य सर्वस्य
यदयम्
यदयमात्मा अनेन
अनेन हि
अनेन
अनेन हि
एतत् सर्वं वेद
एतत् सर्वं वेद
यताह वै पदेन
यथा ह वै पदेन
अनुविन्देत एवम्
अनुविन्देत एवम्
अनुविन्देत एवम्
कीर्तिं श्लोकं विन्दते
कीर्तिं
कीर्तिं श्लोकं विन्दते
यः एवं वेद
एवं
So, mantra number 7, very, very important mantra. And if it's a very important mantra, Shankara will obviously write a very, very long bhashyam, long and comprehensive bhashyam. In fact, on the next four mantras, 7, 8, 9, 10, he writes long bhashyams. So for the next foreseeable 3, 4 classes, you're going to be involved in these bhashyams. Now, Shruti here introduces Avyakrita Prapancha. Right? Avyakrita Prapancha means what? Avyakrita means Avyaktam, unmanifest. Right? So, Avyakrita Prapancha, remember, is also Adhyastha Prapancha or Adhyaropa Prapancha, superimposed universe. Right? So, what do you say? Tadhedam tarhi avyakritam asit. So, look at the words. Tarhi, then, idam, this universe, this creation, avyakritam asit, existed as. This universe means this existing universe which we are seeing, idam, this universe, existed then, at that time means what? Before creation. Tarhi means then. Then is at that time. So at that time before creation, idam, this manifest universe which we are seeing, it existed as avyakrata prapancha. It existed as a unmanifest universe. Okay. So what is the idea? That it is not that the universe was born. The universe also always existed, earlier existed as avyakrataha, or the other word is avyakta maya. Avyakrata prapancha, avyakta maya is the same. Now, any sadhana is possible in avyakta prapancha or vyakta prapancha?
Vyakta.
In vyakta prapancha only. Because in avyakta prapancha, it is nirvikalpam. There are no divisions at all. There is no sadhaka, sadhyam, sadhana possible. Therefore, all sadhanas will take place in Vyakrita Prapancha. And in that Avyakta Prapancha, in that Avyakta Prapancha, in that Avyakta Maya, everything was there in a potential form. So all these Sthula Sharirams, gross bodies, all the Sukshma Sharirams, subtle bodies, all existed in the potential form in that Avyakta Maya, Avyakta Prapancha. Not only that, all your punya papam were in potential form, which is sanchita karma form. Okay, then what happened? When these sanchita karmas, when part of it became ripe for fructification, then Srishti took place. Then creation takes place. Why is Srishti necessary? Because karma phalams cannot be destroyed, cannot be eliminated without being experienced. And for experiencing karma phalam, you require the body. A bhoga shariram is required. Along with the body, the bhoga shariram, you require the bhoga indriyas, the organs, to enjoy the phalam of the punyam and papam. The phalam of the punyam and papam is in what form? In pleasures and pains. Therefore, the transformation of the unmanifest universe into the manifest universe and the transformation of the unmanifest bodies into the manifest bodies. In short, transformation of avyakta maya into vyakta maya, avyakrita prapancha into vyakrita prapancha. This transformation alone is called Srishti. So it says tat nama rupabhyam eva vyakriyataha. That tat, that avyakta, vyakritaha, manifested itself as what? Nama rupabhyam eva, as different names in different forms. And all sharirams, all bodies have got different functions, therefore they have different names and different forms. They have different abilities because of different types of karma also. Now, when all the karanams, they have got different names and forms and functions, remember that all the karyams, the objects, will also have different names, forms and functions. And after the manifestation of the prapancha, the transactions begin. And he says, what type of transactions? Asau nam Asau nama ayam. This person has got such and such a name. And along with the name comes a personality, fat, lean, short, tall, physical personality, angry, quiet, emotional personality, intelligent, dumb, intellectual personality. All the attributes come under what? Namarupa. So along with all these Namarupas also, there is a third thing, which is called karma. So what function does karma have in the individual jiva? We know, right? Brahmana has to function as in certain ways. Brahmachari has to function in certain ways, right? Now, how do we come to know about all these things? The manifestation, the Srishti, is nothing but the conversion of unmanifest names and forms into manifest names and forms. And transactions or vyavahara takes place only in the Vyakta Prapancha, in the manifest name and forms. Right? What's an example? Any creation. Take the example of gold. Right? In the unmanifest form, unmanifest in the sense of not having converted into ornament, not in the sense of not being seen. So in the Karanam form rather, when the gold was the cause, it was a big lump. And it was of no transactional use. You can't wear the golden lump on your nose, right? Or on your hand. But after it got converted into a nose ring or a bangle, then it can be worn in the nose or in the hand. Right? So all ornaments, therefore, where were they before the conversion into ornament? They were in the gold itself, but in avyakta avastha. And that is the important idea. The ornaments have not been created. The gold has changed its form into the ornament. So therefore the ornaments were all there in the avyakta avastha in the lump of gold. But the lump of gold could not do any function, was not useful for any transaction. And therefore, only when the ornaments were made, they become useful for transactions. Right? The gold is made into an ornament. Similarly, the unmanifest body becomes a body, but here there is a karma also involved. Right? And then the manifest body, the Vyakta Swarupam, comes into place. In the gold to gold ornament transformation, what is the karma? What is the meaning of karma?
The transformation itself.
Karma is action, right? When we say that you got a particular body due to karma, you are actually meaning due to karma phalam. But when you say gold, the lump gets converted into golden bangle, and when you use the word karma, it means the action done by the goldsmith. One has to be very clear about usage of words. It's very easy to say, I am suffering because of karma. That's not true. You're suffering because of the karma phalam due to your karma. But the karma phalam of the karma done by the goldsmith is what? The gold bank. Okay, sir? Just a bit of analysis. In the same way, in this universe, the entire unmanifest prapancha becomes manifest because of karma phalam. And the namarupa is the manifestation. Right? This law has to be extended to the whole creation. This law which holds good in the gold to bangle also, which is the Vyashti, micro angle, also holds good in the Samashti. And this Avyakta Prapancha, remember, is a Adhyaropa Prapancha. It is a Adhyastha Prapancha. It is a superimposition on Brahman. So with this discussion is over of how the creation takes place and how it is adhyasta prapancha, how it is a superimposed prapancha. Now we look at the word sa esha iha pravishtaha. So this is, we have seen this particular Shruti before, not in these words. This is called Anupravesha Shruti. Does the word sound familiar?
Taittiriya.
Taittiriya. Anupravesha Shruti is what? The entry of the Paramatma into the creation. Right? So, Saha, Eshaha, Ihaha, Pravishtaha. That Paramatma entered this creation. And Shankara writes a very, very long bhashyam on this one 4-word mantra. Now, this Anupraveshruti is found not only in Taittiriya, it is found in another Upanishad which we have done also. Which one?
Chandogya.
Chandogya. So, Anupraveshruti is a very famous Shruti. It is found in Taittiriya, Chandogya, and Brihdaranyaka. But in those two Upanishads, Shankara's treatment was not very exhaustive, but here it is extremely elaborate. So let's look at the gist of his Bhashyam, what he says. The Upanishad says, Sa Eshaha Iha Pravishtaha. Literally, it means he entered this. Now, what is the meaning of the pronoun he? Remember that pronoun is what in Hindi or Sanskrit? What is the word for pronoun?
Sarvanam.
Sarvanama. And the word for noun is nama. Right? So Sarvanama is that name which is applicable to everybody, everything. So it is pronoun. Now pronoun represents a noun. Right? And in a sentence, when a pronoun is used, how will you determine which is the noun towards which that pronoun is pointing?
After which the pronoun is placed.
Yeah. So, to put in other words, usually points to something which we have been discussing just before using the pronoun. Okay. Now, what have we been discussing all the time? Avyakritam, avyaktam, prakriti, maya, and therefore the saha, the he, would normally refer to unmanifest, avyakritam. Is it not? Since that is the context in which the word saha has been used. Saha means he. Okay. He should refer to avyakritam only. But Shankaracharya here says that that interpretation is not correct. The word saha should refer to Paramatma. Paramatma meaning Brahman. But that Brahman discussion was not there at all here, immediately prior to. So question is, why is Shankara saying that the pronoun he refers to Paramatma or Brahman? Shankara gives the answer in his Bhashyam. He says the Avyakritam, remember Avyakritam means Maya, right? So Avyakritam Maya is a dependent entity, can never exist separately from Brahman or Paramatma. Therefore, wherever the word Avyakritam is used, wherever Maya is used, remember that Brahman is also there. You cannot say Maya without invoking Brahman. You cannot say bangle without understanding that gold is also present in the bangle. Right? The moment you say bangle, that bangle can be taken as a reference to the Nama Rupa bangle or to the gold which is the substratum of the Nama Rupa bangle. And in his argument, Shankara says that this word therefore, Avyakritam, Avyaktam, Maya, It has three different meanings depending upon the context, right? So first meaning is Maya by itself. The unmanifest universe alone is one meaning, even though remember that the universe is always a mixture of Maya and Brahman, but you can use it contextually to mean Maya alone. How do you decide what is the usage? By the context alone, right? That is the first way of understanding the word Maya or Avyakritam or Avyakta. The second word is Maya Sahita Brahma, which is Ishvara. That also you can use. And the third one is the current usage, Brahman alone. So the word Avyakritam can be taken in three different contexts. Maya alone, Brahman alone, Maya plus Brahman. The meaning is always to be understood depending upon the context. And here he says the context is the third one. Avyakritam has to be taken as Brahman. Why? Because there is a later discussion coming where there is the discussion is what? Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. Okay? And in the context of the Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam, you cannot use Maya, you cannot use Ishvara, that is Maya, Sahita Brahman. Because the equation Tattvamasi is valid only when Brahman is the Lakshyartham of Tat. I hope I'm making sense.
Ji.
I'm using a lot of Sanskrit, but you're all advanced students. If at all anybody is struggling, there is no problem in asking, okay? It's a very difficult subject. Don't feel hesitant. Please stop me and ask. Now, this you can ask another question. Why does Shruti take so many different meanings in different contexts? A huge confusion, right? But let me give you another example. In English, normal English, take a word, for example, well, W-E-L-L. So the well meaning can be taken from the context, right? I am well, thank you. That is one meaning. Then he has fallen into the well. What is the meaning?
Well is a
So one is a state of health, one is a location, a place with water in it. So contextually only. And how do you take the meaning from the whole sentence? He has fallen into the well, meaning is different from I am well, thank you. Right? So it is always the context which has to be looked at for the meaning. I've been saying this from day one actually. In Shastram, context is very, very important. Of course, this is a meaning which we are using. Shankara gives another example in his Bhashyam. He says, take the word Gramam. What is Gramam?
village.
Village. Now, Shankara in his commentary says that Gramam has got three meanings. It can be the place, the village, the geographical area. It can be the people in the village. It can be a mixture of both. How do we say that? Supposing you say, I went there and the whole village was empty. The village refers to the place, right? When you say, I gave a birthday party and my whole village came, it refers to what?
The people.
To the people. And when I say, don't go to the village which has got only Nastikas, it's a
Both.
it's a mixture, right? So this way, therefore, what is the coming back to the main crux? What is being said? We are looking at what word? Anupraveshaha, apraveshaha. So there are five possible meanings, right? What is that? First is a physical entry. After constructing my house, I entered the house. This meaning is possible when I am a limited entity and a house has been built which was not present earlier. Right? In this meaning, you cannot use the word Paramatma as the meaning of the entry. Why?
Sarvavyapi.
Sorry?
Because he is Sarvavyapi.
He is Sarvavyapi. He cannot enter anywhere because he is pervading everywhere. Okay, the physical entry is not possible. What is the second interpretation? Paramatma built and Jivatma entered. So builder is one and the house owner is one. Right? So my flat was built by the builder and I entered the flat. Right? First one was what? I built the house and I entered. That is not possible. Somebody else built and I entered. Shankara says that is also not possible because one who created alone has entered. Both are one and the same. And this was made very clear in Taittiriya Upanishad Anupravesha Vakyam by saying Tat Srishtva Tadeva Anupravashat. Having created, he alone entered. So he says this idea of Ishvara entering, Ishvara creating and Jiva entering is not correct. Then there is a third interpretation by a Nayayika. He gives a suggestion saying that when something is created, this is Nayayika philosophy. When something is created, that object remains for a moment of time without properties. Okay, this is a bit technical. It comes out of Nayayika philosophy. So when something is created, immediately on creation it is nirgunam. And the guna, the property comes later. And similarly, he says, just as the property enters the created object afterwards, similarly, Paramatma entered the material body which was created first. And then immediately afterwards, Paramatma entered. So Paramatma only created, he only entered. Shankara now says, no, this is not possible because the guna is always dependent upon the object. If Paramatma is a guna dependent upon the object, then the Paramatma will become a dependent on the guna, which means Paramatma will be mithya. Right? You understand what I'm saying? Nayaka is saying that first object is created, then the guna enters. He is equating the object to the body and the entry of Paramatma to the guna, which means he is saying Paramatma is the guna, the attribute of the body. If that is so, Shankara says attributes are dependent upon the sub of the object. And if you are saying that Paramatma is the attribute, then Paramatma is a dependent entity. He is mithya only. So this object is also negated. Okay. Now there is a fourth interpretation. When a fruit ripens, one part of the fruit becomes more solid and the other part becomes other things, like coconut, for example, right? In the beginning, everything is the same, but as it becomes riper and riper, you have the external part becoming harder and harder, the internal part becoming softer and softer, some liquid coming inside. So changes are taking place. The fourth interpretation is in the same way, Paramatma is all pervading, but Namarupa comes to manifestation in various portions. Paramatma modifies in various portions to become Jivatma. Therefore, the Paramatma that is within the body, that Paramatma transfers into the Jivatma. Shankara says that is not true for a very simple reason. Modification is called Vikara. How can you call it Praveshaha or Anupraveshaha? And therefore, modification is not possible in the case of Paramatma. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate.
Vashishyate.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience. Om.
So
Om.
Thanks for the
Om Namah